Why would he wake? He is waking. Who would do this? Me. We have no other choice. We have plenty of choices. We can stop. We can stop. We can run. We can play and ride and... Shut up. Don't you understand? Nothing can stop what's coming. Nothing! That's not fully correct. Quiet. Who was that? Doesn't matter. We need to stomp. No. We need to act as one. For once, I agree. I agree. Follow the leader. This is ridiculous waste of time. Why would anyone think that he would be able to change anything? You know why. How could you even ask that? Don't you know? He holds the medallion, 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 holds the medallion. So what? So what? We need to be one. 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 Yes, we must put our grievances beside. I will put anything beside. I just need to fight. I will give anything, please. I want to be one. Yes, but we cannot be one together. All of you must kneel while I stand. Follow the leader. I'm not falling for that again. Don't get me wrong, we're completely screwed, but I will not go out like that. Well, then you will go out in pain. We don't need to kneel, we all need to stand. Stand together, die together. We're gonna die, it's true. But what about the medallion? He has the medallion. He has the medallion. He has the medallion. He has the medallion. We need to wake him up. Wake him. Wake him. Wake him. Do it. Please wake him up. What other choice do we have? What other choice do we have? Wake Jorma. Let the iron
Wake up. You're the only one. Wake up.
Let the iron wake up. Remember who you are. Your medallion. Remember, Jorma, the medallion.
Where am I?
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Hello.
It looks exactly
Hello.
as if we were watching with a corpse.
Oh, there you are. I was afraid for a moment that you had forgotten our appointment.
Good evening. This is Sergeant X. They say that ghosts and the like just don't exist.
You remember me, don't you? I'm your host on behalf of the makers of Carter's Pills. And you're to be my guest tonight in the mysterious circle of the inner sanctum.
Unless you think more of a large fat fee than you do of your life, I advise you to throw up the case at once.
Apparently, we don't look at this in the same light, Mr. Dalrymple. I expect danger, and I'm prepared to meet it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Man Alone After... Oh, please. Come on. Look, I do everything for my fans. Danke, das du mich liebst, okay? Thank you for coming, and thank you for your rapt attention during that intro. As you can see, we have a situation on our hands, and what is it? I have no idea. That's where you are going to come in and help me. because in this video, I would like to invite you to play Ironsworn with me, or Starforged, or Ironsworn Sundered Isles, or Ironsworn Delve, whatever you want. I'm going to be using Ironsworn, so if you've never played before, that's a good one to use, not only because it's the first system, but also because if you like it and want to try it, the digital version of this is free. It is free on the website of the creator, Sean Tompkin, and you can pick it up on there. And I really do advise you to do that, even though he is a creator who makes his stuff available for crazy affordable. I think I know what it's like if you're a person who's sort of averse to PDF stuff, but if you're interested right now and just trying it right now, I think this could be a really good opportunity. Because I know there are other videos out there that are like, hey, I'm going to do a playthrough, or hey, I'm going to explain this. And there's probably not any big like secrets I'm revealing in this video. But I'm just going to pace it and phrase it in a way so that we're going to create characters together. And I'll show you how I create a setting. And then I also invite you to play in the setting with me and let me know in the comments, because, you know, this medallion here, I don't know what it is, but I have faith in the fact that we can collectively figure it out. And here's the thing. All of you got woken up and given this medallion as well, or at least a similar medallion. This one is humming with an etheric blue-green light, but yours might be thrumming with red light. And all you know about it is that it will do something when it's activated, but you don't know what it will do, nor do you know what activates it. That's for you to figure out, but that doesn't mean that we can't discuss the clues that we get. Hint, whatever clue you get will just make that part of the story, okay? So please join me seriously. If you're somebody who has had Ironsworn on the shelf collecting dust, if you're somebody who is used to play Ironsworn but fell out of favor with it, if you are somebody who never got around to it but have always thought about it, let's just do it. Let's try it. You know, you owe it to yourself. It's so hard to find a hobby. Me and PJ Sack from Wasteland Story Podcast just talking about this in an interview I'm going to put out this weekend, that it's so hard to find a hobby. There's so many options now, but it's hard to find one that's the one, right? And so it would be a shame if you have enough motivation to check out like a YouTube channel like this and you didn't go those few extra steps to actually play. And so let's just get into it. So first things first, why don't you go ahead and download the Ironsworn Play Kit from ironswornrpg.com, also free. And with the power, you will have in this play kit the character sheet, moves reference, progress track, Oracle's worksheet. You don't really need that right now. And the Ironlands map. With that alone, you are going to probably have 90% of what it takes to play the game. And I am going to do a brief overview of instructions before we do our character creation. No, that's not quite. Here, let me get a little more organized here. Okay, so one of the things that kind of freaks people out when they first play this game is that they read the rules and they're like, wow, those are nice and simple. I totally get that. And then they get to the part with all the different moves and it loses them. And then they go, I don't know if I'll be able to remember all these. I don't know if I'll be able to learn all of these. I don't know if I understand all these. What the hell is a move, right? And so people will sort of wash out because of that. And I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go over the rules summary here really quick. And then I'm not going to go over every move. I might talk about a few of them. But I'm going to tell you how to understand moves, because that's a big part of this here. You don't need to know every move. Moves can be something that you look up like a menu every time you need it. There'll be some that you use more often, but what you really need to understand is what a move is. Because I think most people do not grok the idea of moves correctly. And because of that, they're not able to keep the needle towards the center in terms of what they're doing. All right. And so don't worry about that for now. And don't even worry if you don't get it right away. Just like read it like you would an assignment that you get in school that's like you don't get it, but you're just like, I'm just going to keep looking at this page and just at least make my eyes go to the end of the document. And you know, your brain is doing do you call it leg work with the brain, or like medular work? Anyways, here's how we play Ironsworn. Okay. Moves are what push the story forward. And again, I will describe moves in a way that I wish people described it to me. But for now, as a placeholder, you can think of them as like a skill check or something you do in another game. Anytime that you're going to do a roll for an outcome, you're going to do an action roll. And as far as what an action roll looks like, there are not a lot of like dice rolling mechanics in many games that are as simple and as useful as this. Now, there's going to be some detractors. There's going to be people that have grievances. It leads to too much failure. It's imbalanced. It doesn't apply enough stats. We'll just worry about that later. Because I'll say this. You know what? The reason that I usually like either don't play a solo game or kind of wear myself out on it is when I feel like I am doing more work than the book is doing to play a game. And some games, I feel that way the second I open them, because I'm like, well, this game has 8 pages and told me like step 1, journal a novel. Step 2, have fun. And so some games, it's like, no thanks. I don't like, I'll just use my make believe in my head. This was actually the case with, it was Starforged with me, which is sort of doesn't make sense, right? Because Starforged is even bigger than Ironsworn. It must be 350 pages or so. It wasn't that the book was inadequate. I mean, it's quite contrary. It was that I became so used to the system that I was like, sometimes I'd play with just my character sheet and dice. Like I was so ingrained. And of course, in classic modern learning style, I now looked at these moves again like 2 years later and was like, wow, I've memory hold like 90% of these. Good thing. But the point is that this was like early in my solo role-playing career, and I started to like wonder if the grass is greener on the other side. You know, I sat down and broke up with my high school sweetheart, and then now it's like after college, and you know, Lorraine comes out of her house, and I'm standing there, my legs are crossed, I'm leaning against my car, which is a Toyota Tercel, but it's got good, for how many miles on it, it's still good. And she looks at me, and I can see a wash of emotion, but then she sort of like shrugs the purse up on her shoulder more and just walking around me. And I'm like, Lorraine, you ain't even going to stop talk to me? And she's like, what do I have to say to you? I got nothing to say to you. But then you know that we get back together. Okay. And that's what's happening right now with Ironsworn. Ironsworn's my Lorraine. Okay. So the action roll, essentially, you're going to do 2 D10s and a D6. The D6 is your effort, and the D10s are the world working against your effort. Your goal is to roll higher than at least 1, but ideally both of these. Now, that's not fair. A D6 and D10, well, you get to add your stat, and you get to add like other stuff that comes up that would be like you'll get some like different assets in the game that will in certain circumstances give you additional benefits. And so you're not totally outmatched. Say your stat is 2 and you are trying, let's see what we have here. So of course, I always have to shoot one die completely off. So I have a 6, right? Oh, that's a weird. How do you tell the difference between, one moment, please. All right, I'm just going to use my dyadic D20. Don't be alarmed by this. It's a 20-sided dice that has 0 to 9 twice, so it's just a D10, okay? So let us roll our challenge dice, all right? These are the world's effort against us, and we have a 3 and a 9, okay? And now my stat, and we'll say that the stat is like strength. There's a different word for it in Ironsworn, Starforged, but let's just go with something we're familiar with. So I'm trying to push a boulder, all right? And I have a 2. Great roll. So 6 plus 2 is 8. That's higher than 3 and yet still lower than 9. And so I beat one of them, which means I have a weak hit. That's one of the 3 outcomes. Strong hit, weak hit, fail. All right. On a fail, I don't get what I want. Okay, so I'm not able to push the boulder. On a strong hit, I beat both of them. I move that damn boulder. There's no question about it. On a weak hit, I succeed, but I pay a little cost. Maybe I twist my ankle. Maybe the boulder only moves half of the way. Maybe I moved it and the sound it made alerted some goblins in the cave, right? There's like, I get what I want, but with stipulation. Or only, I get what I want, but not all the way. Those are the 3 options, right? So if this was a 5, I would have had a strong hit. And if both of these were 9s, I would have had a failure. The only other eventuality that can happen during an action roll is that you roll doubles. And when you roll doubles, something fun is going to happen. Okay. So say I rolled 2 9s. When you roll doubles, you find if something good fun or bad fun is going to happen based on whether you beat or lost to those doubles. So here I have a 6 plus 2 is 8. I lost to both of these. So that's a failure, and there's going to be like a complication twist. So something pretty damn bad's about to happen that's going to derail. Now, if I had both of these were 5s and I have an 8, I beat both of them with doubles. That means that there's like a twist that is going to be either like, it's technically neutral to good twist, but usually, you want it to be favorable because you had a nice, strong victory, okay? The only thing that might add like some additional figuring to that is momentum, and we can talk about momentum later. Progress tracks are another thing that are really confusing to people, all right? Basically, to complete something, you need to finish a progress track, all right? And so we'll say that we're going to find the traitor, right? Like there's a traitor in the ranks. And so it could be that abstract, or it could be something like, build a security wall, help the King's Guard build this wall. And so anything that goes into moving you towards completing that thing, you mark off boxes on the progress tracks. Okay. So we have find the traitor, and let me think of something. You know what? We'll go very tangible. Build a house. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have an honest and knowing that like you don't have to be perfect, but you're going to figure out how difficult this is. All right. So finding the traitor, you know, there's no scientific way to know how difficult that is, but consider things like this. Are you finding a traitor out of 5 people? Okay. If so, that's a troublesome task. You know, it'll give you some grief, but nothing terrible. Are you finding it out of 500 people? Okay, that's probably formidable, if not extreme. Are you finding the traitor out of everyone in the world? Well, that is epic. And usually epic, the most difficult of progress tracks, that's reserved for like the meta theme of the game, like the vow that you swear or something like that. And basically, you just have to fill up the boxes. Now, it would seem as though the way to do this would be to, for more difficult things, you'd have to fill up more boxes. That's what always made sense to me, right? Like, so if I have something that's troublesome and I have to fill up a box to complete, if I have to fill up the line of boxes to complete it, well, that should be 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm done. And then something that's epic should be like 50 of these boxes. And the good news is it essentially is that, but we're just saving room on the paper by keeping the same amount of boxes no matter what. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. And the difficulty of the task, it is reflected by how many progress ticks you're going to make. All right. And so a tick is just like 1 tick, 2 ticks, 3 ticks, 4 ticks. That fills up a box. All right. It has to be like the asterisk. That's the only way to fill a box. When you're doing a troublesome task, every time you like do any milestone of accomplishing that, so like finding the traitor, maybe you get a clue from somebody. They said, oh, they're in the machinist quarter. Well, because it's troublesome, anytime you make any sort of progress, you're going to fill up 3 whole boxes. Now, we also know they're in the machinist quarter, and we know there somebody else gave us a dog who has its scent. Great. And now we have narrowed it down, cornered the jerk, right, in the back alley. And this last one here, we could probably just do like the confrontation. Okay. If it was epic, say it's like one of these big things, instead of build a house, let's say it's build a dynasty, an empire. Every time you have an appreciable progress moment, you're going to make 1 tick. Okay. So if you think about that, that's like, if we go back to this analogy here, 4 ticks per boxes to fill up a whole epic line here would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. But you don't have to fill up the whole track. You can, but you don't have to. Because really, in order to see if you've accomplished the thing, you are going to do an action roll where you roll 2d10, but instead of rolling your action dice, you use how many boxes you have filled to compare it. All right. So the challenge dice are under here. And so let's just say with this build a house, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I reach some place in the narrative where it's like, you know what? I think that if I get this team of dudes who said they would work for me and we work all night, I bet you I'm going to get lucky and I'm going to finish this house. And so my dice roll is 4, and it's strong hit, weak hit, miss. So let's see how my dice roll went. Wow. Dude, that is crazy. I did not know that. I did not know that. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so that would be wow. That's so fun. Unfortunately, in this game, it's not equal to or greater than. It's greater than. So that would be a big old miss and a complication. And so you know what's got to happen here. That team of guys, well, you wake up and the house is, you're like, wow, it's done. And then the last guy says, yeah, we worked all night. And you go, my gosh, it's a miracle. And he goes, enjoy your house. And he slams the door and the house just falls to the ground. Okay. Now, interestingly, the same concept is used in combat. You determine the difficulty of the foe, and then you basically fight them until you're ready to roll against the challenge dice to see if they are defeated. All right. Now, it's a little bit different here than in Starforged. So this would be something a little bit different. But essentially, you're going to inflict harm, either 1 or 2. This is something I don't like about Ironsworn. I think there should be more versatility there. I have some ways that I do that. But for now, if you are unarmed and you make a successful attack, it inflicts 1 harm. And if you're armed, it inflicts 2. And each time that you inflict harm, you make progress according to how difficult the foe is. So if it's a troublesome foe, you make 3 progress. Progress is 1 whole box per harm. So say I get a good, nice wallop with a great sword. I inflict 2 harm on a troublesome, this is a very low level foe. Per each harm is 3 progress, and I inflicted 2. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 6. Because 3 progress per harm, 2 harm. You know what? I would probably roll there to see, like, I think I probably got him, you know? And of course, it's not just these rolls. You could also talking about the narrative and take stuff into account as well. But we have 6 and 6 and 8. So once again, I fail. At least it's not a terrible, complicated fail. All right. Everything works that way. Everything works that way because essentially this bar represents your progress, your accumulated effort. Sometimes it's physical effort, sometimes it's just knowledge, sometimes it's progress, sometimes the winds of change. You can put everything in here. And this is what I think people who are more oriented towards an OSR game or who are more used to things that are crunchy, they are going to feel like this is a system that you have to switch in and out of player and character too often, right? Because I'm like making these moves and I am, considering whether I have enough of this abstract progress. And I think that is wrong. That assumption for me, the assumption that because I'm switching towards this like meta currency for progress, and I'm not just thinking about blood and how much HP, that I lose the immersion. I don't. I feel like it is one of the smoothest systems, and all you have to do in your head is remember that you're watching your cool character play. By the way, I cannot stop painting these Gaslands. I'm just showing off these little minis. All right, I'm sorry, but honestly, for $12, you know what you get from Games Workshop? A receipt. Okay, so yeah, you're watching your character. And it's sort of like just the difference between, in a video game when you're playing first person perspective and you sort of like see out of your character's eyes. Well, a game like this is more third person. You're looking over their shoulder. They're still your character. They're still like got the they are your representative in the world rather than your avatar. Okay. You will have these different ways of tracking how you're doing, like many other games. And there's a clever way on the sheet that they say to use a paperclip, like others have found. I think that that's fun and cool. Oh boy. And a nice, convenient system. If you get the right size of paperclip. Oh my gosh, I have paper clips falling. That's not the right size. If you get the right size of paper clip, it works really cool. Like it will actually like highlight or loop around exactly where you are. I just find that after a while it kind of bends the sheet, and so I like using these little guys. I might think twice about that because these are sort of the bargain brand or whatever, and they're not quite as sticky. But either way, you have momentum on the left, health, spirit, supply. And that's correct. 5 is your health. So this is not a game. This is not a game. No, this is not a game where you're constantly going to be doing Leroy Jenkins into battle. Oh, I hope that was a firework. You have spirit, supply, and health. And these are abstracted figures that represent your physical capability. Your spirit is sort of your morale. And then your supply is an abstraction for, do you have enough equipment, gear, ammo, whatever it might be. You could track your vows here as well as your background vow. Everyone's going to have like a background vow to start the game because that's the big picture of what you're doing. And as you can see, there's only extreme or epic. You also will have current vows that have the same system that we used before of like checking off. So it's like, well, why do I have more of those in that separate sheet? Well, that sheet to track those progress bars, that's really to like use whenever you get into a skirmish or someone's like, oh, could you escort me across town? Escorting me across town, anything I would say that like happens in a day or less, you probably use that sheet. This is more stuff like middle and longer term stuff. Okay. So, if there's two warring factions and you are like working as an emissary trying to broker a peace, that's probably not going to take a day. And so think of this as like your active quests. Okay. Experience, debilities, which will make your some of your caps, like your momentum, lower. You'll have bonds, and that is also a progress track, but it shows like the deepening of your relationships with others, and that has benefits. All right, and then on top, we have edge, heart, iron, shadow, wits. I'm ambivalent about games that change the name of like the things we all know. I think sometimes it's good, sometimes I feel differently, but edge is quickness, agility, prowess, agility. Heart is courage, willpower, empathy, sociability, like charisma. Iron is physical strength, endurance, aggressiveness. Shadow is sneakiness, deceptiveness, cunning, and wits is expertise, knowledge, and observation. The traditional there's like different loadouts if you want to play a difficult version or an easy one. The stat loadout I always use is the standard one, which is assign 1 as 3, 2 as 2, and 2 as 1. So for instance, Jorma here has an edge of 3, heart of 2, iron of 2, shadow of 1, wits of 1. Okay, so we got an action roll, we got progress tracks. All right, progress tracks, I think of them as a loading bar. Okay, and as that loading bar fills up more and more, I get closer and closer to this thing being done. And then finally, when I'm ready, when I'm confident enough, I'm going to look at what I have, like how much of that loading bar is full, right? Say I have 6 full boxes. I guess I could just look right there. I'm then going to roll my challenge dice, and I'm going to, for the progress roll, and this is the sort of last check to see if this thing is really done. All right, and I'll roll that when I'm confident, and and also when it feels narratively like it should be resolved. Now, you have to be ready for the fact that you will do in Ironsworn or Starforged, you'll try so hard and get so far, and in the end, it doesn't really matter because you fail your progress roll. And you could do that when you have 8 boxes filled. Remember, that's just part of the game. You didn't actually fail anything. That's just what happened. It's not raining on you. It's just raining. Okay. And so you then, even when you have like 9 boxes filled, you can still get doubles and you could still have a complication. You could still get 2 9s, And so, just be open to that. And it just means there's something else that has to be done. It could be a little step. It could be a whole new adventure. Right. And so, you're always going to make that progress roll to see at the very end. Action roll, progress. And the last thing that once you know what moves are, you'll have all of the basic firmware in your head. And I think these are the essential things to understanding, so that I don't have to go over every instruction. You'll be able to like refer to the instructions and just understand them easily, right? Because I think after this point, we'll just be able to look things up. There might be a few things that come up as we play through a little bit, like threat clocks, which are really only in Starforged and stuff like that, but we'll talk about them if we need to. So for those of you that understand moves already in Ironsworn, this is going to be fairly obvious to the point of laughable, but for some people in the way their minds go, I want to address this. In everything that I do in my life, my job, when I was in school, everything, I always, for some reason, took on the responsibility of being like, okay, I'll be the one that admits I don't get anything that's going on here because somebody else is maybe feeling the same way. And it has rarely ever failed me because most people are just afraid to be like, hey, I don't get this at all. And instead they just smile and nod and then they don't understand the thing and the error replicates. Okay. So when I heard the word move and I was like learning the Powered by the Apocalypse moves system, I was so confused because the reference that I had for moves before that was Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat or Grandmaster Flash. I was like, moves. Okay, show me your moves. What moves do you have? Do you know how to do the moves? In Ironsworn and Starforged, the word move doesn't mean a flashy attack. It doesn't mean a choreographed martial arts technique. It doesn't even mean a specific physical action. Instead, it means this. It is a structured game rule or process that kicks in when something meaningful or uncertain happens in the story. It is a panel of levers that you can go, okay, we're going to activate this move. And then knowing that I've activated this move, that means I'm making a choice not only about what my character is going to do, but what's going to happen in the story. And that's something that requires a little bit of reframing from what we're used to. We're used to saying, okay, I'm in first-person mode here. I'm playing Doom. I'm playing Wolfenstein 3D. I'm looking out the eyes of my character. What do I want to do? Now, we need to switch to third-person view, okay? So we're not in first-person view, like this is first-person right here, right? Third person, we have our character. We see them over here. We see over their shoulder, all right? And so that's what this is. We're slightly separated. We're third person, limited omniscient or whatever. Moves are rule triggers. You use them when you take a risk, when you face danger, seek information, negotiate, travel, swear a vow. Anytime you're doing something in the fiction where the outcome is both uncertain and it matters. Think of moves like shortcuts or apps, like on a screen. All right, your character is in a role-playing video game, and you are sort of like activating certain activities for them. Or if you saw my video on Morkin, or remember those old-time type role-playing games, you a move would be like initiating a process, talk to NPC, search area, make camp, attack enemy. So some of these will feel like the classic role-playing game move, like search. But other ones will be like a whole loadout or set or bundle of activities. When you press that button, pull that lever, that triggers a known procedure in the game. It rolls dice, it calculates successes, it gives you feedback. That's exactly what a move is. A button you push when you do something meaningful. Now, what's cool about moves, once you get over like the head scratching of it, is that moves are quite comprehensive. Even though sometimes the phrasing of them is like, come again, right? Like face desolation. But what's cool about these moves in this game is for many of them, it will tell you exactly what happens next. On a strong hit, do this. On a weak hit, do this. On a miss, do this. And that allows you to propagate the continued action of the game. Whereas if you fail a check, sometimes, like succeeding at a check, you know what happens. But what if you fail at a check, right? And if you think about that, there are a lot of times when you're just like, all right, here I go. I'm going to try and use my slingshot to hit this bird out of a tree. Okay, I missed. Can I try it again? No. And then it's like, why not? Why can't you try it again? Wouldn't you try it again? Like, have you ever, I've gotten a frisbee or disc golf when I'm stuck in a tree 1,000,000 times in my life. And I'll tell you, I don't just throw one rock and go, that's it. I throw at least 3 before I complain and then order a new disc. I shouldn't do that. I should try harder. All right. So, so while your character might be sneaking into a ruin, you're not rolling a generic stealth check. You're making a move like face danger, or in Ironsworn delve the depths, gather information, hell, strike to break something, swear an iron vow. I swear I'm gonna I'm gonna fight everyone in this cave. And each of those moves, it gives you a structure: what stat to roll, what success looks like, what failure looks like, what you're told to do next. Why not just call them actions? Why not just call them skill checks? Because a move is fiction and mechanics together. A skill check is just rolling dice to beat a number. An action is more vague intentionally, right? But the move is comprehensive, all right? An action's a vague term. It can be more vague, but it doesn't tell you what kind of consequences or storytelling structure that follows. But a move does. It's actions plus skill check. It tells you when to roll. It gives you specific outcomes tied to the story, to the narrative. And it connects rules and fiction together. And it means you have to switch your perspective out a little bit. And again, I know that some people would say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to stay in my character's head. I want this to be like Inside Out or whatever, Upside Down. What's that movie with all the little... Are there minions in the people's head? I don't care anymore. Please, enough with these squishy little characters. But yeah, it's not that. You are playing your character, right? But your character is not, your character's here, and you're being like, here, go do that. Now this, right? And I know that it's not what people are used to, and it feels more immersive. But in my experience, it is smoother, more immersive, or at least, if not more immersive, I'm more engaged. I'm more engaged. Okay, moves are the flow control of the adventure. They're the gears of the narrative engine. They ensure that you're not just aimlessly chucking dice. You're shaping your character's arc, their story arc, their growth, risks, payoffs, everything. And when you make a move, the game responds with consequences, with fictional consequences. And that's what makes Ironsworn feel like a story that's unfolding, not just like roll, roll, roll. Some people like the rolls. I get it. So YMMV, your mileage may vary. Okay. All right. So an action roll again, just to differentiate, just to do a little bit of overkill here, because after we learn that, we go, but wait, I thought action. Yes, an action roll is how Ironsworn determines what happens when your character does something risky or uncertain in the moment. In the moment. All right. So that is the closest thing to like a skill check there, but also it is prescribed by the moves usually. When you choose a move, it'll tell you what to roll. Okay. Action is in the moment. Progress tracks are long term. All right. And then moves. There are different categories of them. Okay. And I'll tell you that this is another place that people get a little bit nerfed up. We don't have to worry too much about this right in this moment. See, these are not as sticky as I like. Oh, because there's two of them. Do I have two in every single one of these? No. Oh. Turns out I'm stupid. All right, so adventure moves are like everyday skills and hero stuff. Face danger, you're attempting something risky, you're trying to evade an imminent threat. That's like a skill check, a save. Secure an advantage. It says when you assess a situation, make preparations, or attempt to gain leverage. This is, and I like the idea of this is one of the central, like this is representative of the central mind shift that's involved in Ironsworn. Okay, so look at the examples here. When you assess a situation, make preparations, or attempt to gain leverage, envision your action and roll. If you act with speed, agility, or precision, roll edge. With charm, loyalty to your courage, roll heart, etc. You choose your stat. On a strong hit, you gain advantage. Choose one. Take control. Huh? We'll talk about it. Or prepare to act. Take +2 momentum. On a weak hit, your advantage is short-lived. Take +1 momentum. On a miss, you fail or your assumption betrays you. Pay the price. All right. So, momentum. As we stated, this is this little bar on the side here. And momentum, I guess the closest classic cognate would be like inspiration. Okay. And momentum, think about it, like don't get bogged down by the specific number right away. Just think about it as like, how you doing? And I think this illustrated bar does well because it's like this regal +10 and then this blood drippy, fiery -6. This is the highest to start is +10. It can go lower with conditions. All right. But usually it's -6 to +10 and a reset value of +2 to start the game, meaning whenever you reset your initiative, it goes back to +2. Okay, so momentum is a special stat that goes up when things go well, goes down when things go badly, and can be spent to cancel bad dice when things are not going well. It's your ability to push the story in your favor. You earn it through success, good preparation, and progress. Hard-won progress, damn it. You're tracking on this meter, starts at +2, typically +10 top, -6 is the lowest it can go. You gain momentum when you score a strong hit on a lot of moves. And again, the moves will have those instructions, so you don't have to worry about like, well, which ones? But especially you're going to get a lot in face danger, gather information, and secure an advantage. All right, that's why we're kind of bringing it in point. You also get it, make camp, sojourn, win initiative. And basically this simulates or represents you kind of getting your footing. You're gaining control. You spend momentum or burn it. You want to do that when you make a move and get a bad result. You could do this after seeing the roll if your current momentum is higher than one or both of the challenge dice. You can do it like after that. And you burn it. When you burn it, you can replace your action score with your momentum score. So if my momentum is +5 and I rolled a 2 and I have like a 4 and a 3, just ignoring like a stat add, I could say, well, my momentum is +5, so I'm going to burn it and change my action score, my action roll to 5. Okay, you can also cancel any challenge dice that are equal to or less than your momentum, or you can, if it's advantageous, reset your momentum to the reset value, which again is usually +2. So if your current momentum is +7, you roll an action score of 5. Your challenge dice are 9 and 6. Why is it so hard to find the number? Okay, there, 9 and 6. You could burn momentum to cancel the 6, turning a miss into a weak hit. How is that a weak hit? Well, because a weak hit is whenever you only fail one of the rolls. And since one of the rolls is gone, you only failed one. And if you think about it, it would have been a fail. All right. Anytime you burn momentum, you reset it to your reset score. Also, when you suffer major setbacks, there are a couple of moves that represent the process of that, like endure harm, endure stress, out of supply. There are certain oracle results that'll specifically say it, and then you reset it to that default number. So in this way, Ironsworn has this mechanic that if you think about it the right way, it's like a push your luck. You build it slowly as things go well, and then you want to spend it at just the right moment to avoid catastrophe, because spending it early or holding on to it too long, both of those could be bad. All right. Builds up on strong hits or good play, spends down when you turn bad rolls into good ones. It resets after burning it or major setbacks, and it represents your growing confidence, control, fate's favor, how fate shines on you. Now, you might be thinking, well, why do we even have all this other stuff over here? Health and spirit and supply. And what I say to that is, learn to mind your own business. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, you don't just lose these things randomly. You're going to lose them when the game tells you to. Yet again, another benefit of having explicit move outcomes. So as a consequence of a move, sometimes you'll roll a weak hit and it'll say, okay, you've succeeded, but you have to pick a cost, right? And so you might reduce whatever is appropriate to what you did. If you stumbled, it might be health. If you tried to convince somebody of something and lost confidence, it could be spirit. If you were able to climb up the side, but you lost some of your food or supplies, you can lower your supplies, or you can lose a momentum. So you can, and those are moves: lose supply, endure harm, endure stress. If you miss, you fail, you can also pay the price. And this is actually one of the cards that I do reference often. But again, it's in the book. You could literally just like make this card very easily. In fact, the card itself is on page 105 in the Ironsworn core. All right. When you suffer the outcome of a move, choose one. Make the most obvious negative outcome happen. Envision 2 negative outcomes. Rate 1 as likely, and then ask the oracle. That's another thing that is a card that I will use. Is this is actually from Starforged. Ask the oracle, and it's like a yes/no oracle. We can use a fate mill. You could use any yes/no oracle system in the book. Page 23, seeking answers. When you seek to resolve questions, discover details, determine how characters respond, draw a conclusion, decide the answer based on the most interesting and obvious result. And that does happen often. Ask a yes or no question, or pick 2 and then roll on the table, and then you just roll a D100. And so, again, I'll use the red one here as the single digit, and black is double digits. So I shot an arrow into the crowd. Did it hit the person that I wanted it to hit? And I would say, okay, there's 500 people there. There's a very small chance, so it's only going to hit that person on 91 or greater. And I roll, well, I forgot which was which, but either way, it's 20 or 2. So I definitely failed that one. Okay. And so then based on that, I don't have to pay the price because it's not necessarily a move, but I just play that out. Maybe I do pay the price because that seems obvious. Like maybe someone's like, "Did you just shoot an arrow into a crowd? What's wrong with you? Oh, this guy just shot an arrow. He shot an arrow? He just shot an arrow into the crowd." Think of momentum as a cushion. And sometimes things will directly reduce your health, spirit, or supply, but sometimes you're going to have to like pick a price. And as long as it makes sense, you could be like, well, I'll just reduce my momentum. But beware, because when you get into negative momentum, anytime that you roll, say you're like, your challenge die is 1 and 2, and you roll a 4, and you're like, yes. You're like, oh yeah, that's great. Anytime your action die matches a negative momentum, your action die is canceled. So now you had a fail. All right. So it is a cushion, but you can't abuse it too much because then it starts to make games very hard. And a lot of times you're going to do both. You may have to both lose momentum and lose health. And it just makes sense. Just think of it as, not only did I get hurt, I also have definitely slowed down my momentum. I mean, my forward progress, my feeling that things are going good. If you're familiar with baseball, it would be like if you start throwing, if you're throwing strike after strike, and then you throw a ball, and then someone gets a single, and then someone hits a home run, and then you walk 2 people, it's like, all right, you're starting to lose confidence. You're starting to lose your rhythm, right? And that's reflected in that. If your health, spirit, or supply drops to 0, you have to endure harm, and you can, for health, you become wounded, maimed, or do a move called face death, which is like a death roll. You could be not here with us anymore. Spirit, you have to endure stress. You could become shaken, corrupted, or face desolation. Why? And then supply, you could mark your unprepared debility. And you're in serious trouble then, because then you can't use check your gear move, which means like using anything. If you're already at 0 and you get hit again, you'll lose momentum or whatever you have left to lose. And until you're dead. So it's a compounding system. Bad rolls are going to lead to loss of momentum, loss of health, spirit supply, debilities, conditions, new challenges, get more challenging, recovery or bouncing back becomes harder. But that's part of the narrative arc. You spiral, you recover, you spiral again, you have a new session, you go to your reset value. It, might be a +2. If you still have a condition, it's +1. Okay. So yeah, strong hit, you're often going to gain momentum, maybe even more. On a weak hit, you're probably going to either get not as much momentum, or you're going to lose momentum, or some sort of, usually won't lose a stat, but not gain. And then if you miss, it's a big cost. Usually that means you lose momentum and a core stat. Okay. So just the type of moves you're going to see. Again, you're going to have these adventure moves, which are going to be, your action, your heroic moves, like the stories of old. And let's see here, go in order. And then all right, you have your quest move. These are big promises, big goals, and these are going to be like long-term story arc. Pay the prices here as well, as is Ask the Oracle. So yeah, this play kit is great. Suffer moves. You're going to endure harm, stress, shortages, face death, face desolation. Let's look at face desolation. When you are brought to the brink of desolation, roll plus heart, which means action plus heart. All right, and so we'll say my heart is 2. 3 and a 4. And I rolled 4 plus 2 is 6. So I got a strong hit. On a strong hit, you resist and press on. Okay. And so I need to, but I still need to recover, that stress. But I'm able to, live to fight another day, so to speak. You could also have a companion. We'll talk about some of that stuff as we begin our game here. Relationship moves are important. You are going to have bonds that, as they increase, things get better. Sojourn, for example, is a way that you can clear conditions, recover, provide aid to somebody else. You could forge a bond with people that you're like, yeah, this is kind of like a positive relationship here. And then this starts to answer like an example of how you can recover spirit. Well, you test your bond. When your bond is tested through conflict, betrayal, or circumstance, you get in a combat together, or you get in an argument and you make it through. You do a test your bond move, strong hit, you take 1 spirit and 2 momentum, right? So you recover a little bit of spirit, you get some momentum. Combat moves, fighting turn by turn. Now, here's something to know though. Combat in this game happens often at the speed of thought. It is not, it's not going to, like you go, then I go, then you go, then I go. Okay. It's not, it flows on who has initiative. And this is a little bit of an area of difference in Starforged. You'll have to read up on being in a bad spot or having control. But in Ironsworn, if you have initiative, you're in control, and you can make moves like strike. You can secure an advantage to kind of like, it might be a thing like aim, take the time to aim or get in a good position to defend. You can compel, where you're like, surrender, you bastard. Or you can try to end the fight, right? Because it's going to be on that progress track. You can make a progress roll. But if the enemy has initiative, they're pressing the attack, and you're on the you're on your back foot, and so you can clash. You could face danger, or once per fight, you can turn the tide, where you risk it all. And it says you risk it all. You may steal initiative from your foe to make a move, not a progress move. When you do, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. If you fail to score a hit on that move, you must suffer a dire outcome. Pay the price. So that basically it's like a desperation move, where you're like, I don't know. When I would get in a fight with my older siblings, I would try to turn the tide, where I'd be like, ah, but they were just way older than me, and so I would finish screaming, and then I was really screwed because I'd like given it my all, and I was still in a half Nelson. All right, now's not the time, but I'm still mad about that. Anyways, you have to think of it like a duel in a movie. You're fencing. Ooh. When you're confident and pushing the tempo, you have initiative, but if they land a blow or they force you on your back foot, you stumble, they have the upper hand. You're still both acting, but the tone and your span of available actions changes. So you're not going to alternate turns like D&D. You act differently depending on who has the initiative. And usually, well, all the time actually, strong hits, you're going to keep the initiative because you're pressing the attack. Weak hits or misses, you're going to start losing initiative and reacting or defending. Okay. All right, here's an example. Enter the fray. So you have a character, they're like Jorma, they're stealthy. No, not the stealthy. They're agile. No, let's say, fine. Their shadow is 3. All right. But there's a dangerous enemy whose name is Irv. And they're inside a crumbling tower, like the stupid scene at the end of Game of Thrones where Hound and his brother are like, ah, you think you're bad? I'm bad. And then his brother says, ugh, that ending. All right. So you begin the scene surprised. The enemy has initiative, and you are going to see what kind of foe this is. And we'll say that Irv's dangerous. So this means that 2 progress per harm and inflicts 2 harm on me. All right. So we're ambushed by Irv. So we have to roll action plus wits. And we'll say my wits is 2. And so 2 and 1. So hopefully, I think 4. Yeah. So I have 6. So I will have the initiative and I will take +2 momentum. But we'll see. On strong hit, it says take +2 momentum. You have the initiative. Let's just, for the sake of seeing how it goes when you're in the catbird seat, let's say it's the opposite. Say I'm ambushed. All right. I will not be able to just strike because I don't have initiative. I will be able to clash. When your foe has initiative and you fight with them in close quarters, roll +iron. When you exchange a volley at range or shoot an advancing foe, you use edge. But we'll say that this Irvin is right up close to me. And so I will say that I have +2 iron. And we have a 1 and a 7. So I have +2. 4. So I have a weak hit. On a weak hit, I inflict my harm because I'm armed with a greatsword that is 2. But then I'll have to pay the price. All right. But let's really quick just see what I inflict 2 harm. That means 2 progress per harm. Okay. And so if we have, the progress boxes here. I did harm, 2 harm, and that's 2 full progress per harm. But I also have to now pay the price. All right. And we'll say, oh, well, I could go to this card, but I know I'm in this crumbling staircase, so we'll just say the stairs crumble more. And I'm partially pinned under some rubble. But let's just say that, you know what? Let's just kind of trust in our own thoughts here. Say I'm wearing a cloak and Irv comes up to me and I'm looking very vulnerable. And then I just throw my cloak at Earp's face. That's clever. I'm using misdirection. So I'll just do an action move and add shadow. And remember, my shadow is +3. So 8 and 9. 3. So 6. Now that is a big miss. All right. But say that my momentum is 10. I can replace my momentum, and now I've got a strong hit. All right. And so because of that, because I utilized and recall, we talked about this, and it's not a combat move necessarily, but what did I do there when I threw that cloak? I secured an advantage. All right. With deception, stealth, or trickery, roll plus shadow. On a strong hit, you gain advantage. So I have advantage. And that means I can take control, which in combat means initiative, and I can make another move, not a progress move, but another move, and I get a +1 to that. Or I can prepare to act, taking on +2 momentum. Now, because I just burned my momentum, that brings it back down to 2. And, I mean, that could have some wisdom to it, I guess, in some scenarios, but screw that. I just got an advantage. I'm not going to be like, haha, and now the fight is going in my direction. No, I'm going to go again. And this time I have advantage. Now I'm going to strike. All right. And say I just will do, I'm up close. So again, it's plus iron. 5 and a 4. Iron is 2. 3 + 2, 5. So I hit a weak hit with that. And the result of a weak hit is I inflict my harm, but I lose initiative. Now the other person has initiative. Are you starting to see the flow here? The enemy is still dangerous. Initiative shifting. Momentum's building. And the secure an advantage gave me a crucial opening. And I'll keep trying to get this harm and avoiding harm until I get to a point where I say, all right, you know what? I got 6. I'm going to do a progress move here to see if combat is over. And I rolled a 1 and a 6. Okay. And so that's a weak hit on end the fight. And it says, on a strong hit, the foe is no longer in the fight. They are killed, out of action, flee, or surrender. Okay. But on a weak hit, as above, so here, but you must also choose one. You could either endure harm, endure stress. Your victory short-lived. A new foe appears. You suffer collateral damage. You'll pay for it. An objective falls out of reach. Others won't forget. You are marked for vengeance. But you won. On a miss, you either lose the fight or you can continue the fight with some sort of paying the price. Okay. Now, here's the last thing I want to say. And this is specifically for solo players, and I used this during Ironsworn, and I should have talked about this before, but it never came up, and I remembered it when I was talking to PJ earlier. But there is a thing that happens in Ironsworn that people, especially people who are rules as written people, rule follower people, or people that are just sort of like life referees. And it's not necessarily, I'm not making fun of people like that, but there are some people who they're sensitive to perceived unfairnesses, even of themselves. And these people, I refer to it as the MyFitnessPal tracking problem. If you ever used anything, tortured yourself with a MyFitnessPal, or any sort of app where you have to like log calories or points or anything like that, when you're really motivated at the start, you'll sometimes eat something that's vague, right? And not like I'm eating a vague food stuff, but you'll be like, I'm going to have a slice of pizza. And then you go to track it and it says pepperoni pizza, 1 slice. And you're like, okay, great. But then you see it says pepperoni pizza, 1 slice, medium, small, large, extra large. And you're like, well, I don't want to try and cheat the system here, so I'll just say that it's extra large. But in reality, you have like pizza for ants. And so at the end of the day, you're like out of points or out of calories, and you're like, oh, I'm starving. Well, it's because you've been tracking like 120 calorie slices of pizza as extra large 600 calorie slices. So even though the app says, you've reached your whatever calorie goal, you've actually eaten 12 calories throughout the day. Okay. And I feel that some of us do this where we take the worst possible outcome in the effort of like fairness. And to that, I want to suggest something that has been helpful to me. Again, your feelings about it might be different, but I want to share this with you because it helped me a lot. All right, one second. Continuing to inexplicably borrow from weight loss metaphors. I don't know why I'm thinking about that. But right here, I call these my guilt crystals. All right. And this is my guilt bin. Now, there's this study where people who did nothing more than tracked their food intake over like a certain year period or something lost weight on average. And they were specifically told, do not modify your eating, don't go on a diet, don't do anything, just track what you eat. And they found that merely paying attention to something modified behavior correctly. Okay. And so what I'm saying is anytime that you're playing in your session and you're like, well, I guess let's see here. On a weak hit, I can endure stress, or my victory short-lived and a new danger has appeared, or I suffer collateral damage. And you're like, well, it might make sense for like another foe to come, but I kind of want to move on with the scene. So then I guess I'll just endure harm because I know that I'm close to healing. And then you do that, and about a 30 seconds later, you carry on with the story, but you notice you feel a little guilty, and you're like, maybe I should have done the other thing. Don't do that thing. Just put one in there. Okay. And then at the end of the session, just look at it and leave it there. And at the beginning of the next session, take a look at that and just try to think about what it represented. What you'll find, what I find most of the time, is you don't remember and you don't care. And you say, well, I was just having fun. Put it back in and then track again. Now, there are times, though, when it's been like, well, I have 7,000 gold and I'm like, maybe I do need to like create a complication for my character, right? But there's no stat here. Don't count these, nothing. Just like look at them. Feel the weight of it. That's why I like using pennies or something like this. Might work for you. Definitely works for me. Okay, let's create our character. So I encourage you to just put the numbers 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, wherever. All right. And try not to be advantageous. You could even roll dice, like roll on each one of them. And for the 2s and the 1s, like evens 2, and then pick 1 to make into a 3. We'll start with that. And name your character. Mine is called Jorma. All right, so you can create your world or your character in any order. Usually I find that you end up kind of going back and forth. We've already, well, maybe we haven't envisioned our character yet, but we can get that. Choosing a name, set our stats, set our health, spirit, and supply to +5, set momentum to +2, max to +10, and momentum reset to +2. Mark up to 3 background bonds. So for myself, and if you'd like to start as I start, you put 1 tick for every bond. It's like a meta score. And I ticked 1 because as far as I know, I only know the voices in my head. I like playing characters that are disoriented, who wake perhaps with nothing but a shirt, tie, and tidy whities on. See also Disco Elysium. But I think that I don't know if those were voices at the beginning or if that's some sort of spirits communing with me or if that was actually people in the depths or whatever. but there's a specific way that I want to handle that. And so I can figure out these 3 background bonds. I can figure that out later. I just put 1 tick for literally those voices. And I don't think Jorma's going to go as Joe for short, but okay. So you can, if you'd like, you can create NPCs right there. There's NPC guide in the book, how to create them. It's very easy. Or you can leave it open. If you wanted to leave it open and you wanted some direction, maybe within your first 3 sessions, you can find 1 bond each. And if you wanted to have 3 bonds, I would say you can find these 3 archetypes is my mission for you. Find one of your bonds should be helper. One of them should be adversary, but not really. Or maybe really. There could be a trauma bond there or something. And then we'll call the third one the mist. Define that however you want. I will tick 1 bond, and now assets. Okay, so this is actually a place where Lodestar does have an interesting mechanic. I'm not going to use it right now because I sort of have some ideas, or maybe I could. Maybe we can figure a way to noodle it in, but I'm not going to use the mechanic of it, but I do think the mechanic is pretty cool, which is there's these list of prelude events. And these prelude events, in addition to giving you stuff about your character, will also tell you which assets to pick. And assets are as good as like inventory or abilities, powers in this game. And the 4 categories of assets we have are paths, rituals, companions, combat talents. Okay. And so, for instance, if we rolled a 2, we would have the alchemist path as like one of our first 3 assets. Just to try this out to see like what comes up. We'll say that. Oh. 86. Bind ritual. Yeah, so this is cool. A lover taught you the dances of bear, stag, wolf, and boar, but warned you of the allure of the wild call. They disappeared soon after. That's 86, right? Yeah. And so you would then go to find the ritual of bind. And then that would be one of your assets. And one of the things is checked off. And the other things are like you can advance. Now, the asset cards for Starforged said that you could use erasable marker on them. I will once again submit my cards to this to see if that works. I know you can get it off anyways with like alcohol, but we'll see. Okay, because some of them actually have like lines to fill out. Like if you're a devotant path, you could put who you're devoted to. Okay, so there's that. And now, just like not new. Damn it. That's an erasable marker too. With an alcohol prep pad. Still not perfect. So I guess do that at, well, don't do that. I was about to say do it at your own risk. Now, I'm not going to use that one because I have a different thing. And if you wanted to follow along with what I'm doing, that's cool. If you wanted to use this, because this is definitely a good system as well, go for it. But you're going to choose 3 assets, okay? And since if you are willing to be a part of whatever this medallion / badge is, and maybe yours looks different, but it's of the same material, then here are the choices. So first of all, choose from these paths. And you could put these in a pile and draw one. I suppose you could pick more than one, but then you only get one of these. So an obvious one you could be is Revenant, which is you came back from the dead. Outcast. Clearly, you woke up in some sort of cave pond. Ritualist. There's clear that some sort of arcane powers are swirling around you. Sighted. Maybe the voices are not voices. Maybe they are communications from beyond the veil. Spirit bound. Maybe they are haunting you, or maybe they are the manifestations of memories that haunt you. Shadowkin. Maybe you are being told that you're killing the bad guys, but that's not really who the bad guys are. Or the last one, which I'm going to be choosing simply because I can't resist ever taking on the name of Slayer. All right. And so when Slayer starts with the following: when you gather information by tracking a beast or horror, or when you secure an advantage by readying yourself for a fight against them, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. Yeah. And then it also gives me benefits when I'm swearing an iron vow. So what I'm creating in my game is that these are sort of like, I guess, kind of, if you're familiar with Warhammer Age of Sigmar, it's like Stormcast Eternals. I am some sort of being that is brought back when a land gets corrupted enough to clear the corruption. That's what I'm being told. I'm not being too dedicated to that because that very well could just be like what I'm being told. But so my first asset is going to be Slayer. And then from, if you choose something that's more mystical, you can go ahead and choose a ritual. And I think most of these can be well fit into a sort of mystical background. I am going to, since I have Slayer, I'm going to draw one combat talent to see just basically like what, I don't care what it is, because I think I have all of these here. Like, I don't think there's any, let me look, is there any I want to eliminate? Nope. I like all these. So, the other thing we can do is have a companion, and I'm going to think about that, but leave that one for now. Oh, cool. If you wield Duelist, if you wield a bladed weapon in each hand, when you strike or clash, you may add +2. If you do, inflict +1 harm. Awesome. I love that. Okay. So now I would say I'd probably wouldn't include the paths, but combat talents, companions, and rituals. What I want to do is shuffle these up. Sorry, I just dropped one. Shuffle all these up together, and then actually, I don't even want to see like what the top of it is, because what I want to do is start the campaign coming out of this cave, and I'm like drenched, and I'm probably wearing nothing, and I'm going to encounter something outside of that cave, and it's going to be a conflict. But pause right there and let's go back to the world. So there is this Truths workbook, again, available on ironswornrpg.com for free. And this is something that we go through to create what is true about our setting. Now we have 2 things left on here, which is make note of equipment and items and background vow. We'll get to that, all right? The Truths workbook, I am going to tell you mine. And again, I think it would be cool if you did this along with me, and that way we can work together. Because when I talk about my Iron Vow, I'm actually going to set it as epic, and I want to see like if people say in the comments anything that represents a progress track. Let's just like all try, if we're all like these deputized slayers. My background vow, I think to make this as grimdark a setting as possible, I think I'm going to make it as cleanse the filth. So like there is too much corruption. I don't know what that looks like yet. It could be goblins, it could be corrupt officials, it could be whatever. We can find that out once we fashion the world. And maybe that's different for you, but it would just be great if suddenly this terrible land that's just covered in darkness and nobody feels safe anymore, suddenly all these dudes just emerge out of caves under the ground and just start kicking names and taking baths. All right, so the first thing, you're going to define like the old world. Now, this could be literally the old world where people came to the Ironlands from, or it can be like the world that was, or it could be, this idealized past, or it could be that like we can't live in the old world anymore and the story is about changing it. For my adventure, I came up with, and I kind of wrote it as a little script here. We left an empire of gold for you. Okay. And let me see, it's name list here. Yeah, we're gonna use we're gonna totally cook this up from these oracles from top to bottom. All right, so we left an empire of gold for you. 92. And Queen, oh, that's an elf name. I don't like elves. 92. Queen Lona, Lona, even herself, knowing how loyal the Slayers were to her cause, agreed to give them the hero's sleep, because the empire was to be one of peace, and there is no room for slayers in a peaceful empire. And so put them to sleep to ensure the because Queen Lona was like, every empire has failed because they keep the killers around who like forge the path to that empire in blood. And so we will give these slayers the rest. Now that's just the rumor, right? Iron. So this is kind of talking about like what the land looks like. I kind of like this one. Inscrutable metal pillars are found throughout the land. They are iron gray and smooth as river stone. No one knows their purpose. I'm going to select that one and just stop right there and just say, we don't know what the hell that is. But I know that they weren't there when we went to sleep. So there's just like these, here's how I'm imagining them in my mind. Like this is, I don't know how big these are, but they're just like these dark gray metal pillars. And they don't do anything that anybody can see. So like the Ironlanders who live around them, they don't let their kids around them. They're weary of them. And nobody knows why they're there, but they just inexplicably leave like a sense of dread when they don't like to be around them. I like that a lot. Okay. So now we have legacies. We are the first humans to walk these lands. I like the idea that there was some baddies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, right. Those are the firstborn. Well, let's look at... maybe I'll just roll... This is from Ironsworn Delve, but I'll just roll a theme and see if we can come up with something from that. 30. Fortified. Foes defend this place against intruders. All right, so that makes me feel like the land used to be held by trolls. And Queen Lona took this land back from Ganache. No, it can't be Ganache. Or is that a dessert? Nash. So there was the trolls led by Nash, who fortified the country, and for years nobody could get in or out of it until Lona created the fleet. Trying to find just like a random sort of... No, we could just use a random input card here. Well, the first thing I looked at is the blast of a horn. So, all right. So Lona found the Dreadhorn, which was this old relic that it was said, and yes, this is probably stealing from that one horn, I think, in Game of Thrones, that, who was the guy from the Iron Islands that was awesome in the book, and then in the movie he was just like a lascivious pervert whose motivation was to sleep with Cersei. I forgot, but who cares? Anyways, so the Dreadhorn was this relic that nobody really knows how Lona got it, but it caused cracks to form in the fortifications around the Ironlands, which led to the successful assault. And I guess Lona maybe has some sort of mystical stuff to her, which makes me wonder like what was really going on with her. But she was like, when we went to the hero's sleep, she was like 300 years old. All right, communities. All right, the second one I'm going to use, but just kind of like modified. So it's that we live in communities called circles. So what I'm thinking is that the habitable lands are getting smaller and smaller, such that the people are having to like the areas that are not overtaken by just these... I'm trying to decide if I want them to be like corrupted or if I just want them to be like bad. Let me take a moment to look inside my heart. All right, I got it. So we're going to leave it open. All we're going to say is that, and I know that this word has been overused, but the towns are getting smaller and smaller, away from these sort of gangs, hordes, tribes of people with the glimmer. And the glimmer is just sort of this iridescence in the eye, and nobody knows really what causes the glimmer. But those with the glimmer, they feel and that they have dominion over all of the Ironlands. They say, this is our land, and we already own everything. So they'll say to people, like, we're going to come into your house because we already own it. And people are like, you don't own it, it's mine. And they say, no, let me show you. I can help you to understand. and we don't know what happens, but then those people, they probably give up their house, and then they too have this glimmer. I really want to actually make it glimmer. Hold on. All right. Yeah, they have the glimmer in their eye, and it looks quite beautiful, but it's also disconcerting. Okay. So those are these communities that the people are just, they're simple folk. They just want to farm the lands, protect their family, and they know that the rumor is you can't even look in their eyes, because if you look in their eyes, you'll be like enchanted by it. Leaders. So nobody knows what happened to Lona. Nobody knows, dead or alive. But each of the communities has a separate leader called an overseer. I think that works. So sort of like a chieftain. Every 7th spring, the people affirm their current overseer or choose a new one. Some overseers wear the iron circlet, while others thirst for power. No, no one wants to be an overseer. In fact, you have like some settlements where it'll be like these dudes and like old sort of stubborn older ladies who are just like, well, somebody's got to do it, are wearing well, not, they're not wearing, nobody wants to wear this anymore, right? Because it's such a burden. And so they're doing what they can to maintain their settlements and keep people alive. When asked about Lona, they used to, like, maybe the kids will say, "Oh, the kind Queen Lona, she's gonna come back, she's gonna save us." But like the older adults are like, "I don't care if Lona's alive or dead, because she doesn't do anything for us. We're on our own. We don't even have contact between us. The last runner we had was months ago, and we don't have many people that are willing to even deliver messages to go out there with those freaks." Defense. Here in the Ireland, supplies are too precious and the lands are sparsely populated to support organized forces. Yeah, no, they just do their best. Like, it's commoners, militias, and some settlements have better organized forces than others if they're bigger. It's pretty much everyone for themselves. It's almost like Walking Dead, when you have like the hilltop and stuff. It's just these struggling communities. It's devastated. Like, I can't believe it, although I haven't encountered it yet. Mysticism. Okay, something just came in my head. We're gonna call it the grip, and we will have the grip. The grip is something. Oh, cool. Okay, I don't know why. So there's like 2 sides to this: the grip and the reach. The reach is more powerful, but it's chaotic, and the grip is a careful, sort of measured use of the mystical powers. And the idea here is like, if you're, in harmony with things that you are able to harness and have control over, you're able to establish a grip of them. This is through ritual and time and rhythm, harmony with nature. Whereas the reach, your reach exceeds your grasp, kind of thing. And this can be very destructive, and usually using it has some sort of destructive effect. But perhaps these people who have the glimmer don't care if there is destructive effects to it. And so I think that most people, I would say that magic users are not, at least powerful magic users are not common. If children show signs of attunement with the grip, then this is great. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you this. Maybe I should write this down in a book. Yeah, so if children show that, they try to suppress it, because if they're too powerful, there's nobody left. There's not many people left to teach people how to harness it. And so children will start to reach naturally, and this can cause destruction. And maybe there's something to that. because maybe they say if the child it starts to show that and they can't control it, and you ask about it, maybe they look away and they say they can't be part of. It's too dangerous now. They just can't be part of this. Religion. I will say this is probably an animist religion here, but maybe not. Let me look in the oracles, see if something fits. Not really. So by the way, Lodestar here has like a lot of the oracles from Ironsworn Delve as well. So it's pretty affordable option if you're thinking about it. But I'm not sure there's anything that sticks out specifically. Okay, my eyes here. Blocked or broken path. I can fill that in later. We'll just say that the religion is called the path. And so people will say, are you on the path? I try to stay on the path. And the glimmers, maybe they talk about some sort of different thing and they say the path. That's for the old wives' tale. I was about to say the other one could be the ice, but that makes me think of the Ice trilogy by Sorokin, and I'm not sure I want to get into that. Okay, architecture. Yeah, the glimmer will be like, don't you see it? The architecture. Do you see the beautiful shapes? Don't you see what we can build here? Everything here now, it's junk. We need to build on top of it. Look at the architecture. Look at the blueprint. We have to enact the blueprint. Firstborn. So the firstborn were like the trolls. Yeah, maybe we don't know. Maybe people like I wouldn't say they're like rare as Bigfoot, but they say they were so destroyed by Lona's invasion of the land that now they exist in the far north and in the forests and stuff like that. And then beasts, I definitely want there to be beasts, and that's one of the equalizing factors. Is there's like these beasts which used to keep like good treaty with humans, but because the people with the glimmer are upsetting the balance, the beasts don't know the difference between them and other humans, and so the beasts are now indiscriminately attacking others. Horrors. Yeah, we definitely want there to be horrors. What does the word rending mean? All right, yeah, I like the word rending. It technically means to like tear in two. So maybe the folk will talk about the rending and they'll say you can't travel by night here because there's there's the rending will happen, and maybe they even say that like that's where changelings come from, like it'll rend you and it will make a doppelganger of you, and so you can't travel by night. And then let's just say like where I came from, I know there's only 9 areas of the Ironlands, but we'll just roll. Well, we can roll this one because 0, I'll just re-roll. And then it has the settlement generators, basically just like an open-ended oracles to generate actions and stuff like that. And there we go. All right. So we will say that I am from, of course I roll a 0. You know what? I don't know where I'm from. But the cave I emerge in is in the Ragged Coast, so over here. This is a rugged land of snow-capped cliffs overlooking blue waters. Ironlander settlements sit at the head of fjords and shelter of narrow valleys. So I'm over here. We'll say that I'm like, just because my character is gonna freeze to death. If not, we'll say I'm not like at the top of the mountain, but I emerge from the bottom of one of these mountains, and it's quite cold, and I need to find a settlement. So the first thing I'm gonna do is find a settlement. Let me see what my culture is. Not going to worry about that right now. So I come out of the cave. It's cold. I've got, just like a torn sheet around me that I found as I was running through and tore it off because I'm running. I don't know what I'm running from. And my idea is that you, to give you structure, especially if you're somebody that has created a campaign and then you're like, what do I do now? Here's what you do, okay? And I know the video is quite carrying on, but I want to give you a place to leave off from. You're going to come out of this cave and you are going to engage in combat. You are going to meet something. You could use oracles to roll it up. It could be a group of hunters. It could be anything. But I will say it probably is something that gives you information about the world in some way. So I'd recommend that maybe you just do like a simple combat against foes that are troublesome or dangerous. Probably troublesome because you don't have anything. And so even when you do harm, it's only going to be worth 1 harm, which you get 3 progress per harm, but you would need to be able to land 3 hits. So it doesn't matter whether you lose or win, because right before either of those things happen, or at any time you feel it's right, you're going to draw your 3rd asset. And that is going to either save you if you're going to be hurt, or it's going to be some sort of power that manifests before you win. Like suddenly, you pull, you're on that last move, it's a successful hit, and you pull an asset and it's like thunder touched or whatever, and like something comes out of your hand, and that is character development. And that's why I didn't want to see this top card here. And so for me, right before whether I'm on the brink of death, I am saved by using... Okay. Oh, that's pretty awesome, actually. Okay, yeah. An owl. So I have an owl companion. That's my 3rd asset. And because I get to name the owl. Oh, no. I can't use Jorma for both. This owl's name... Well, I'll figure that out. But, no, I already know. The owl's name's Benjamin. And then because there's nothing checked off here, that means that I would be able to choose which one. Now, this is incredible, actually. Embodying. When you face death, take your owl's health as positive momentum before you roll. That's awesome. And then there's a whole section on companions and healing companions or whatever. And so I am a slayer, I have duelist, and owl. And now here's the other thing. On the section with equipment, you have 5 of supply. So because we came out of a cave, we can't say like, oh yeah, I ran out of the cave and I happen to have 6 rations and torches or whatever. However this combat ends, and it will be successful because your 3rd asset will establish that, you're also, via the result of that, or whatever your 3rd thing is, it could be a ritual here and talisman. You're going to have to get creative, right? But no matter what, it's going to be the thing that ends the combat safely because it's a tutorial. Just get used to combat without worrying that you're going to get killed, okay? One way or another, you are going to find supplies, and you are going to find at least 1 simple weapon and some rugged clothes. All right. If you decide to like make some sort of roll to see, you get a strong hit, make it so that you get like slightly better than rugged clothes, a leather padded vest or something like that. Okay. And then set out to your first settlement, use the settlement generator, and find one of your bonds. And remember, if you could either use the generators for that, or you could find the helper, the adversary, or the mist. Can't wait to hear, so that we can fill in the progress track and cleanse the filth of this land. Let me know if you're interested in playing, if you have any tips for other players. Again, I'm having to relearn some of this stuff. I haven't played it in 2 years, and what I played was Starforged before, so it's entirely possible I've missed a few things or characterized things a little bit off. Please let players know if there's anything that big. We don't want to overwhelm anybody, but otherwise, I hope some of you will take this opportunity. I hope this was helpful, and he's got the medallion. He's got the medallion. The medallion. The medallion. I want the medallion. No, I want the medallion. It's my medallion. Let's share the medallion. I want the medallion. Oh, sorry. Bye.